Okay, so this week is going to be a bunch of review regarding data extraction, manipulation, and visualization. And the reason for that is so that we can go a little bit deeper into each one of those components of data science. So when it comes to the secret of getting ahead is getting started. I guess that makes sense. So reading in Excel sheets, Excel files and CSV files are one of the biggest components of bringing in data into R. I'm showing you an example of reading an Excel file where a particular sheet is named Amazon World, and so this is getting access to only one of the Amazons, or at least one of the the sheets named Amazon World. This Excel sheet doesn't really exist. It's just more so for you to get, according to the code, at least how the formulation of it. If, let's say, for example, if an Amazon World was like the second sheet, you could replace this with a 2. So this should not be new information. Again, it's a review. HTML tab. Okay, so this is really, the more and more I dig into this, the more and more this is like when you program deeper, you'll see that this is a really big cheat code, because what this is allowing us to do is to essentially, and I'm actually going to show you some T because it's a review, might as well, so if you go here to the website, so we're getting access to this table, but in reality the website looks something like this, and it's quite disgusting. And so what this functionality does, so at least where is it, right here, what this does, it looks for the table within this code and cleans it up so that it looks like this when you bring it into R. Okay, so that's that. There's various ways of bringing it in. You just got to make sure that you're getting the right exact table based on the second argument. We didn't spend too much time on list, but it's pretty straightforward. So what I mean by that is if I copy and paste this, okay, so then if we go to R and we run this code, this is going to give us the entire list. So what a list does is just an amalgamation of different data structures, vectors, data frames, and lists. And again, the list is different from the list in Python or any other programming language. And so if you want to gain access, let's say, to the second element within that list, you use 2 square brackets and you gain access to that. And the thing is, the list won't become more important until later. And so just be aware of that. Keep it in the back of your mind. Okay. So what's interesting here is that this is a list. We already talked about this, but then this element in and of itself, this type is just a vector. And so let's say I want to get access to ChatGPT, this thing right here. So what I'll do is I'll actually go here and watch. I'll say just 1 bracket, and that will give me, sorry, not 2, it should be 3. That'll give me access to, I don't want that. This should be 2. Jeez. That'll give me access to this element here. Okay, because it's the third element of the list and it's the second element of the vector. Okay, but if I turn this into a list, so this is what we call a nested list. This is no longer going to be single brackets. This is going to be, so if I run it right now, I'm going to get an error. I'll go run this first. Okay. I'm not getting, so I'm getting what I want, but not necessarily. If I want to gain access to exactly the ChatGPT as an element, I have to put this into another square bracket, and then I'm getting access to this particular element. Okay, so that's that. Jump right back into it. That's what's going on here. So a nested list is just a list within a list. Working with JSON. So JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Almost. almost messed up there. And so JSON is a very important data type for working with the web. R does not necessarily natively work well with our work. Well, not well, but it just doesn't work naturally with JSONs. But we can still work with them within R. So the reason why this is important is because this is where we can store data. So say for example, we have someone named Alice. They're 30 and they live in New York. Okay, and so this one could argue this. We could frame this as a data frame where Alice, 30 in New York is that one row. Name, age, and city is going to be the columns. However, that's not the way data is transferred, or at least communicated within the web. It's a little bit more complicated. It's more like this. And so working with JSONs in this format will allow us to then be able to work with JSON when it comes to working with it within R. So here you can install JSON Lite, library JSON. This in and of itself is a string, and we can turn this string into a JSON in the following format. So I'm going to copy and paste this here. Okay. And so if I run print JSON string is just a string. Okay. However, if I actually do from JSON, it's going to turn my JSON into a list. Okay. And that's what we have here. And this is the list. So if I wanted to gain access, so I'll say JSON list, I can actually do $name, and that'll give me access to Alice. Okay. So that's JSON, JavaScript or object or notation. So there's a huge connection between list within R and JSON objects. Okay, and so what's cool about JSON is that we can go from the JSON to a data frame relatively easily. Okay, just like what I mentioned earlier. So this code here is turning the JSON into a data frame. So it's the same functionality here, but when you say flatten is equal to true, that turns whatever you're working with into a data frame. So if I'm not, well, at least it should have turned into a data frame. Let's see. Okay, so I found what the issue was. You still have to use the pipe and turn it into a data frame. As data frame. So you do flatten to get it true, and then you say as data frame, and then when you run it, it turns to a data frame. If you don't do anything with it, if you don't use the flatten to get it true, don't include the comma, don't include the pipe as a data frame, this is just going to return a list to you. Okay, just like that. All right. So with that being said, you can also write your actual JSON to actual files, so that's nice as well. Well, we won't take too much time with that. So when it comes to this video, you can read it some on your own. Why don't you all try some of these questions? Okay, so this student grades at XLSX. This is not really an Excel sheet, so therefore semester 1 doesn't really exist. But if we did have this, we know that we would use the read_XLSX function to read in this Excel file, and then say sheet is equal to semester 1, so that we can get that actual function. Okay, you get that actual sheet within that Excel file. Okay, what is the main function of HTML tab library that is used to scrape tables? That main function is for you to gain access to certain tables within an HTML website. Okay, Or at least that should have been said, but the main function is just HTML tab, but what it allows you to do is to gain access to certain tables within a web page. Using the HTML library, write a line of code that would scrape the second table from web page at example.com/data. So you just use this website, comma 2, and utilize this function right here. Okay, and so that's how you actually gain access to that data frame. If a web page contains 3 tables and we want to scrape the third one, what would the second argument be? It should be 3. And then here you can see that this is a list. And you want to gain access to GPT-4. It should be bracket 3 bracket 1 of the nested list, so that you gain access to this list, the third element, and the first element of that third element. So bracket 3 bracket 1. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'll do the manipulation review in the next video.